Hello and welcome again to another session of Way Studios tutorial on architectural visualization. In this session we're going to learn how to apply textures just as seen in the viewport right here, and we're going to work with textures in this way. Apply this to this area in the sub-object mode and apply this, then all this. Then what we're going to do now is going to the original file without textures, then we apply the textures. Okay, here is the untextured where we left off with the last modeling, where we did this modeling out, and now we're going to texture as we saw earlier. So we're not going to work with the roofs because we have a tutorial that takes care of this, so we're practically going to hide this. Then we're going to be left with the facials, then the building, the ground floor, the top floor, then other building components. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at our materials that we're going to be using here, and mostly I don't have problems with materials because I can just get them freely from v-ray-materials.de. I can just show you that right now. I get my materials, you get free materials here, and you can search for any materials you want on v-ray-materials.de, so you don't have a problem creating materials. Whatever kind of materials you're looking for, you could just do a search right here and you'd get them. So once I have my materials, I just save them out, load them and save them out here from this area. Then I can keep my materials and have them as a library. Okay, and in further tutorials we're going to be doing detailing on specifically on how to save your materials, keep your materials for future purposes, and how to load materials from other magazines and other material files. Okay, now what we have here, where we would have, this is what we're going to use for the basic material for the walls. So we're going to apply that to the two. I'm selecting them together, and we can just click apply. We'll apply it to the two floors together. Then we can see that we have a bit of a problem with the mapping style, which is a little bit stretched, and what we need to do now is going to apply a UVW map to adjust that. We could apply it together to the two this way, and we could do it individually. I'm just going to do it just like this. I'm going to do it individually, and just to show you a couple of things to walk around with. So right now I've applied it, so I'm going to adjust my scaling right here. I wouldn't like adjusting my scaling here because most times if I have to do it here, I have to do a lot of adjustments, and if I'm not satisfied with what I get initially, I have to go through all these other materials again and adjust from there. So I would always rather adjust my materials, the tiling of my UV, I'll adjust the materials from my UVW map, which is a very strong one, and first thing I do is remove my real world scale. Then I would come to a box because this is actually a box, and I'm actually using a box, and from here I'll be doing this 1000, and by default you see this looks good and for what I have, and this is majorly based on the type of scale you have right here. I'd always implore that you don't change this particular system unit scale. You can change this but leave this unchanged because most things are created using this, and you don't want to change this so you don't have things that look off when you apply certain materials, and especially when you import or merge files to a particular scene. That will be talked about much later in other tutorials. Okay, so I have that 1000, 1000, I think, and I'm good with it. And you can, if you want to adjust the scaling here, you could do, I always advise this because that's the way I do it anyway. There are other ways you could do it. I always advise you do it right here and change these units right here to adjust the scaling. And the reason why I'm using 1000, 1000, 1000 for both length, width and height is because my material, particularly the base material, which is a standard for all of them, is a square material, so it's not rectangular, is not, so it's easier for me to just apply a 1000 to both length, width and height. So that is done, and I can always that is the material for that. Then I want to change a certain material around this area which we saw earlier in the finished texture, which is the cast stone, well cut stone around here. So what I'll do is I'll come here to my polygons and I'll select the area I want that to be applied to, which is this area. So what I'm going to do now is apply my, which is this cast stones, to it, and apply that. It looks on coordinated this way, but that's because we're not on that level yet. So once we come to that level, because the tiling is already adjusted, it's already been set with the UVW map, it comes in straight and good. And you can see that this is also a square map, a relatively square map actually. So, and there are other ways we could get this done, and we could individually apply, because we might want different UVW mapping for some materials, and which they obviously won't look good when you apply. So in other tutorials, I'll be showing you how to apply different UVW map for different objects for different materials on one same object, and which would be using different map channels for individual materials. But right now we are using the same map channel for all the materials on this particular object, and I'll be showing you how to apply that in multi and sub-object mode as well. So right now we want to change the material, and we have, because initially in the finished work we have a different material applied to the lower part of this ground floor, which is this material. So what we're going to do now is isolate this and show you how to get that done. First we have to make sure we are able to select just the lower part, but right now we can't select just the lower part because we don't get we don't get just the areas, we just get all the whole areas selected. And before that, we shouldn't forget that we're supposed to apply a UVW map here as well. We could apply a new one, and we could just go and copy this particular one and paste it right here, and it does the same thing good as we want it. So we can isolate this back, and let's cut that area we want out, and let's go to our sub-object of our polygons, and I'm going to show you a style cutting it out right here, because we want that just the outer areas. We'd have selected the whole thing, but we don't want it to cut the inner areas as well, so we want just the outer areas, because if we selected all through, it's going to select all these, and you might want to have a different thing for the interior. So right now we'll just do this for now, and we come and select slice plane, and our slice plane is always placed in the center of our object applied on. So right now we have this, and we want to move it a little lower, to just a little above the lower window sill. So what we're going to do now is move this, because this is like at a 1.7 height here, then we're going to move it to a 1.2, and I think that is good for us. So to cut that through, because right now it's not cut through yet, to cut that through, we're going to click this slice, and what it does is it will actually slice that point. So we can get rid of this by clicking this off again, because it turns it on and off by clicking. So right now we can just select the upper areas which we don't want, and holding Alt and marquee select, and we get the areas deselected, and the areas we want are still left selected. Then we come up with our material editor, and we can apply that particular material to it. And also the good thing is, because we've applied a UVW map, it actually does the tiling for us, and it does it well for us. And if you want a different thing, then you'll have to choose a different UVW map and put it on a different channel, and just like I said, I'm going to be showing that in another tutorial session. We're going to pile a couple of things together and put them as like a plus in a tutorial. Alright, so with that done, we can come back to our initial scene and exit the isolation mode. And now we need to apply materials to our railings, and we already have an aluminum material here in this scene. And because this is very procedural, and it's not tiling of any map or anything, it's procedural map, so we don't have a problem with it or having to apply a UVW map, so we can just apply that straight away to all the railings area, and that is done and simple. And we can also have our windows, because we used AEC windows. We have AEC materials in our max material, which is already pre-made, which goes straight, and once applied it automatically distributes the sub-object materials and places it well. So let's take a look, and I'll select similar, so it's going to select all the AEC windows, and I'll apply this AEC material which has 5 sets. So I can apply that, and automatically apply that. So you can as well just adjust the glass material, which is the one in the middle. The third one, you can as well just apply the glass material, adjust it however you want by creating a new material for it, or you could just create in a new scene, then copy, then you can now go and paste into the area here. So we'll be showing more details into all those techniques and methods of working with materials later in some other tutorial, but this will just be brief on this one right here. So, and also we'll pick we've added some hood to the windows, which would now apply a white material, but though not a totally white material, because a totally white material creates overburn in render times and in renders, and it could cause crashes and a lot of different form of errors in our renders. So I'd advise you don't use a totally white material in your scene, except it's a map basically. So what I'm going to do now is apply this, then get this, apply that, apply to all the hoods, and that is done. Then also the door, we have a glossy wooden material for the door, which I got from viewmaterials.de as well. And so you could just select all the doors and apply. Because the doors have to generate their own mapping coordinate, I think it generates quite well and it works quite well. I think I like it this way. You could as well just adjust however you want if you want to, but you can still apply a UVW map to it. But for this I'm good, and I don't want a UVW map. So one more thing, okay, another thing here is the hood, which we're going to obviously make white, and you can just apply that just like so. And another, yes, here is the floor of our balcony. We want to have this terrazzo finish on the floor, and obviously we're not going to have it all over this area. It's just going to be a section, and you know how that is done, just going to be a section, the top section of this area. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some bit of detailing here. So to do that, I'm going to show my edge faces. I use that by pressing the F4, toggling F4 on and off. You can see that edge faces. So I'm turning on my edge faces. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just slightly cut through this area. Before I do that, this is this is a spline which is with an extrude modifier, making it look like a polygon, but basically not truly one. So what we're going to do is convert this into an editable poly, and so we can get to the sub-object level mode. And here I'm going to connect, and right here too I'm going to connect. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to move this down, because I just want to edit that small area of the balcony, not the whole area. So I can exit here, then come back to this thing, and here I have this, and I can move this slightly away right there, and move this equally slightly away right there. And what I'm going to do now is cut line through all these ones here by using my connect, and I'm going to offset it a little bit to go up, and I have a 50 for it, and that is good. Then I'm going to extrude this for a little bit and extrude, and I'm going to use extrude local normal to a 50, and I'm going to accept that. And so I think we're good with, I think I want it to be a little bit lower, like a 30. It's too much initially. Okay, now I have that. Then I can select this area and apply my terrazzo material. Of course, I'm going to need to apply a UVW map, which to make that, I could as well just paste from the previous one, which is in my clipboard, and because I'm good with this setting for it, and it's always in the clipboard until you copy something else. So right, that is good. Then I'm going to go back to the sub-object level and select the other parts, which I'm going to apply a concrete material to it, which is this concrete material I have here in my material editor slot, because that is being well taken care of from my, oh, I think we've done a little bit of wrong thing, and I think we selected the wrong ones. Then okay, now we just apply this, and that is done, and it's been well tiled because the UVW map equally takes care of that particular material. And the same thing should be done for this area, and we'll do that, but just the same technique here could be used to get that done. And now we're going to work with the stairs equally and put it in a little bit of terrazzo material, then concrete material on the lower part, just like this area. So I'm going to isolate this and work a little bit on this to get that to look the way I want it to look. Okay, now I'm going to select this, select this, select this, then connect, then use a 50, and I'm good with that, and select this, this, and this, call it this, and do the connect, and it keeps the previous setting, and so I'm good with whatever I do now. Okay, and next thing I do is I extrude those parts slightly. I extrude them, and I'm using a local normal so it extrudes evenly. Then I'm using a 50, and I'm good with that. And so we have that. And okay, to apply that, we just select the top faces because we need to apply the terrazzo material over this area, and I think we've got that selected. Then we can pick our terrazzo and apply. Then of course we would have to put the UVW map because you can see how chaotic it is without a UVW map. So we can just paste the previous one too, and you can apply a new one if you need to change the setting you would have on it, and you can paste it and equally just adjust from here. So, and we're going to apply the concrete material to the other part. So using Ctrl+I to select inverse, I'm going to apply this to that. Then with the UVW map, it's already worked it out well for us, and we have that like so. And we have a beautiful step area, and which is the entry porch. So, and one other thing here, would have to create a material for our column here. So we might just use this same material for the wall and applying a UVW map, and we could just as well use this white material. And for this area too, we are going to apply this lower material just to fit and not look too off, and we apply to this material. Then of course because this also generates its own mapping coordinate, and you can see it works out fine. It works out fine even without applying a UVW map. You see, it generates mapping coordinate, and it makes it look good. You can as well just apply if you want to adjust if it doesn't look good, and if you want to adjust. And I think that is all for now, and we are going to move on to the next stage, which is the lighting and rendering, and showing you how I do my lighting setup to get a with V-Ray dome light and HDRI, lighting it up, and so you give it a distributed shades of sunlight in areas, and like, giving an effect, a good effect, and it's not all flat and that. And just keep yourself posted, and wait on for the next tutorial, and we're going to show you. Then I'm going to clean up this one and do a couple of things, modifications, work with the ground plane, and do a scene light up. Okay, we'll see you in the next tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you.